We may have to get you a different one,
Gotcha.
but
I'm pretty loud anyway, so
whatever.
watch it. All right, thanks for being here. Robbie, thanks for joining us online. So
Yes, ma'am.
this is buyer forms. So I'm going to go through the buyer forms, not only to kind of explain some things, some highlights about buyer forms, how to correctly complete them, but also the documents that are needed for compliance in command with a buyer consultation as well.
Do you mind if I interrupt you and ask one quick question?
Well, I don't know. How many do you want me to give you, Beth?
Just one.
Oh, that's not gonna happen. Yes, ma'am.
Is in the samples, is there a sample for a seller's PSD?
Yes. Seller's PSD?
Uh-huh. I see a buyer's one, but I don't see a seller's,
Oh, well,
which is, I don't really know why we have a seller's PSD anyway.
it's not a required document.
It's not a required.
I know it says,
That was my second
You're gonna get
question.
a lot of people excited right now.
so yes, that was one of the things that I talked about in the pickup yesterday. And Pete, I know I saw that you were on
I was there too.
okay. And I just was kind of back and forth and I didn't really see. So we are actually meeting tomorrow to, I've created a new list of documents that are required, documents that are not required. In your under contract, there will now be a spot to load your lead-based paint where there's currently not right now. On your closed, if you are on the list side, the PSD is no longer a required document.
Okay.
It says that it is right now. Again, we're getting command updated with the actual forms that actually are required.
So on the contract, is there a place to check that they have received the professional services disclosure sample?
On the listing agreement or the buyer agreement?
No, on the offer to purchase,
Not on the offer to purchase.
not on the offer.
Because the professional services disclosure is.
Oh, you're right,
specific-
that's what I meant. the
Yeah,
listing
it's
agreement.
specific to the, to either the listing and, and yes, there is a box. And you should have the conversation with them about professional services disclosure. However, in most cases, there are times when you might use the professional services disclosure. It would be conditional. If you need to use it, I would encourage you to use it and load it. So it's in the file. So let's say that the buyer asked for the seller to do repairs. And the seller selected the people that they wanted to do the repairs. I would have them sign a professional services disclosure indicating that they chose that from that perspective, from a defensible position from you as the agent and also the firm as well.
And so I guess we're gonna be hearing more about this after tomorrow. You said y'all were meeting tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
With the
Yeah.
new list or something?
Yeah, well, it's just gonna be a little more user friendly. And
And when
so
are you talking about in command?
in
Okay.
command, yeah.
Okay.
Just one less form. Typically, the only thing that the seller has is the attorney that drafts their deeds. And that is taken care of whenever the attorney sends the seller an engagement letter
Uh-huh.
and the seller signs it and sends it back to the attorney. That covers, yeah. That's why if they are using other things, then, other vendors or, professionals, then yes. But if it's just for that closing, then, for the deed, drafting the deed, then it's not. And it'll still be on there. It's just not going to be a required document anymore. Okay, so buyer agency agreement, buyer, this would be any and all of the buyers that you are representing. Um, keep in mind, it takes one to buy and two to sell. So if you are, sometimes people get confused because, well, I put both the husband and the wife on there, but now the wife's not gonna be on the contract because her credit's bad. You don't need to change anything. There's nothing that needs to be changed on there. The firm, obviously, that is us, as well as any, LLC that or firm that you may be operating under as well. So for example, on my buyer agency agreement, on my listing agreement, I put Ward Real Estate Group at Keller Williams Central.
I've never heard this before.
Oh, hello.
Listing, okay, tell me that one more time. now.
Yeah, so the
Listing agreement.
entity, so you guys have a firm license
Well, I mean, we have an LLC.
that you get paid through, so that means you have a firm license with the Real Estate Commission. Every year you renew your firm license and your personal license. Okay, yes, so yes, Gladwell Park. Cindy Dudley does it a little different way, Robbie does it a little different way, but you need to name both entities.
So on that listing agreement.
Or the buyer agreement, they're both the
Sorry,
same.
it's up there, it's gonna be Keller Williams Central and Gladwell Properties LLC.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
yes.
I never knew that.
Yes, so the reason, that's disclosure for the real estate commission, so if you screw up, that, the buyer or the seller can find you incognito. So through either one, if they go to the real estate commission and like, they don't know that Pete's name is Powell, then they're looking for Pete Gladwell, and it's not gonna exist. So just from that perspective as the firm.
Is there anywhere else that we have to put that?
No.
In the contract? Okay, just the,
Yeah.
at the start.
Yep, you got it.
Well, that was worth the price of this,
I'm telling you, I promise you, every time that you come to one of my classes, you're gonna walk away knowing something that you didn't know when you came in.
Mhm.
And look, we're just like 5 minutes
I
in.
know, amazing.
Yes.
I can't wait for the other.
It scares me. I don't know if I want to hear anymore.
So a couple of things that have been added to this, they kind of stacked it. Number one, they made it fewer pages, which is good. But they kind of stacked it. So there's some boxes that you just have to be a little more aware, cognizant of. A buyer is or is not working with a relocation company. If they are, then name of the relocation company. We identify the, type of property and also general location. This can be Alamance and surrounding counties. However you want to word that.
And you can say all counties in North Carolina.
You can, on an exclusive, it just depends. I mean, I think you have to go by what the buyer is looking for. So if the buyer is looking for property in Charlotte, or looking for property in Asheville, or looking for property in Oak Island, are you really going to be able to represent them in all of those counties? Or are you just going to represent them if they were to buy something in this area?
So you were suggesting Alamance County and surrounding counties.
I mean, if that's as far as your footprint goes. Because, you know, are you going to drive to Oak Island to show them a property and represent them on a property? Are you knowledgeable enough to fully represent them? If the answer is no, then they would have a buyer agency agreement with an agent. You would refer them to an agent in that area. So I say, you know, keep within the area that, you know, I always used to say where you eat, sleep, and pray. And, you know, that's kind of your area. Don't get in the outskirts, because then you can get yourself in trouble. Term of the agreement. I use a Mac, so everything
I do
is
too.
backwards, so.
Why don't all IT guys not use Mac?
I don't know. I stand on that question. Term of the agreement, this must be a definitive date. It cannot be TBD. It must be a definitive date, and it must also be a reasonable date. In which the buyer can either purchase a property, or you're gonna get tired and not wanna work with them anymore. So we're not gonna do a 5-year period, or, you know, anything,
Lifetime.
right, yeah, anything like that.
How about the rapture?
So must be definitive, and it's either buyers who intend to purchase a single property, or buyers who may purchase more than one property. It's the same difference. It's just like, in most cases, we're gonna check the first box. There might be a situation where, like, I may sign a buyer agency agreement with Scott for 2 years because he may purchase multiple properties within that time frame. Typically, it's gonna be the first one. Okay, compensation of firm. Let me get this. Okay, so. Non-refundable retainer, if that's in your business practice, put that in there. If it is not in, then you just put NA, leave it blank. Buyer agrees that firm's fee for services shall be the amount of, this must be a definitive amount. See how it says in red? The NCAR kind of helped you out with some of these things, to point out, do not insert NA 0 or a range of compensation. It has to be a specific dollar amount, specific percentage of purchase price, or whatever that is. So this is, if you put 0, then you're working for free. You will be paid nothing, and none of us want to work for free. So this is the amount that what our services are. We're going to use 3%. Sometimes it might be 2.5.
And that is just the compensation of the
That's-
firm.
That's correct. Yes, yes. Because that's all that's buyer. This is how much I'm gonna get paid. Either the seller's gonna pay me, or you're gonna pay me. So you're getting a little confused with the listing agreement, because the listing agreement has both in there. And then again, in bold, buyer understands that the firm services are not free. And so this is where it talks about, if the listing firm or seller agree to pay, they need to make sure they initial there. Also, you know, we always have that conversation that, we always seek compensation from the seller or the listing firm first. However, understand, I can't work for free. If they are not offering compensation, then you will owe me compensation. And we can talk about how we can figure that into our offer, asking for closing costs, whatever the case may be.
Can I make a comment that
Absolutely.
that should go before whatever your compensation ask is? It's out of order.
I don't disagree. I don't write the forms. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, it should have been the very first thing that in bold, probably in a blue box, as well, that, so totally agree, but they do make them initial it, which means you've explained it to them, they've read it, so, yes, I don't disagree that it's in the wrong. You've got your protection, period, again, keep in mind, protection period, is if they sign a buyer agency agreement with another agent, protection period is no longer in play. And that is, up to you, as far as how you run your business, what you want that number to be. I feel like this is not the right form. This is what's the date on this one? 24. Oh, yeah, sorry, y'all, this is not the right form. That's totally my bad.
I was wondering, I was thinking I was confused.
Yes, no.
I'm starting to sign it right now. What number is it?
So it's 201, but it
201.
needs to be the 25 version. Thank you, Daniel. Sorry, sorry.
If you want to look at a different form and then we
I
can. bounce
do.
back.
How do I get out of this? It's good.
Top right hand corner, just hit that X.
Here or this one?
Sorry, I was looking at my computer.
Sorry.
Move the mouse just a little. Up higher.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You said 201?
Yeah. We'll go through this one while you're doing that. Thank you. So property showing agreement, everybody understands and knows that at minimum, you must have this document signed before you cross the threshold. Why are you looking at me like that, Pete?
It's a form you gotta sign.
Yes,
Before
it
you
is.
cross the threshold.
Yes, it is.
Or
And
maybe they're just thereafter you get that, before you leave. Sorry.
So, this is, due to the NAR settlement. This is the showing agreement. Has or has not signed a, document with another real estate agent in order to see a property. They can, doesn't matter, doesn't mean that they can't sign this one to look at this property with you.
And we would put our LLC on that line too.
That's correct. Yep, everywhere it says firm.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Term of the agreement, you can do it for a day, you can do it for a weekend if you've got buyers in town for the weekend. Again, it doesn't have to be a specific address. It can be a specific address. It can also be Alamance and surrounding counties as well. And then what we expect to get paid. So again, this would be your, who knows what number to put in there anymore. We'd like for it to be 3. So we do, of course, we have the option as agents to put 3 and accept 2.5. We can waive the difference there. If you charge a fee for showing services, then you would put that amount in there. Again, we have to talk about agency, dual agency because on this form, because why? Does anybody know why we have to talk about dual agency here? May or may not act as a dual agent.
Maybe showing your own list.
Or you might be showing a Keller Williams listing.
That's the other.
Yeah. Yes. So, you aren't necessarily a dual agent if you're showing your own listing. And you don't need this form if you're showing your own listing. You only need this form if you're showing it to a buyer that is not on your listing. You can show your listing to anybody.
But I gotta do a WWREA.
You have to do WW. Yes. The reason that you don't have to have this is because you represent the seller. When you're showing your listing, you represent the seller. However, we do need to have them authorize that the firm may act as a dual agent while providing showing services, again, because if they say no, you cannot show them a Keller Williams listing.
Would that form still work if you said may not act as a dual agent or a dual designated agent?
Well, it doesn't give them that opportunity. because we're not at that point in the relationship yet, because we don't have an agency relationship. So, dual agent means I might be acting as a dual agent because the listing agent has a dual designated agreement. And so now you're dual because you're in the same firm, and then you'll become dual designated when should you work with the buyer. So it just, again, gets us across the threshold. Any questions about that? All right. Let me. Did you, oh yeah, you put the updated one in here. Thank you.
If you want to switch, I can grab the thumb drive and put that on real quick if you want. The new one.
Oh, okay. I'll go over it quickly.
Welcome.
Oh, no, it's fine. I'm gonna do this one, and if that's okay, I'll do this one.
Do
and
that
then-
one first. Yeah.
Okay. So working with real estate agents, again, we know this form very well. We check the top 3 boxes. We do not check the bottom box.
See, I was told, that must be that thing you told me that I was told
Yes,
otherwise.
yes,
And to
yeah,
stop doing it.
Yes, I was approving, yet I sent you a nice note that said, I'm approving this, yet in the future, do not
Oh.
check.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your note.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well, good to know.
Yes.
I've been wondering what it was.
I thought the only thing this did was they initial it because we explained it.
No, so you are checking the relationship types that might apply to this buyer that you're working with. Okay, so if you have a buyer agency agreement, whether it's exclusive or not exclusive, you check the first one. Dual agency, we want to check that one. And then we want to check designated dual, because we practice designated dual agency. Your buyer might, so dual, so that I can show a Keller Williams listing, designated so that we go into designated agency.
Dual is so I can show my own listing.
No, dual is so you can show any listing in the firm.
Okay, we don't do dual agents. Why do I have to check it? I never do.
You do dual agency because you're in a dual agency situation right now. Y'all are under contract within a dual agency situation right now.
I know, but it's dual designated.
That's correct. But you gotta be dual before you can be designated. You can't be designated and not be dual.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
well, it doesn't, but it does.
well,
It doesn't, but that's the way it is.
yes, yes.
So dual is like Keller Williams.
Correct,
If, Ada and I were doing one together, that would be dual.
yes. And it would be dual, and it would be dual
des-
designated. Yes,
I've only been doing this for 11 years. It's still confusing.
okay, it has been confusing. I've been doing this for 24 years and explaining it to agents, and it's been confusing for 24 years explaining it to agents. Pete, this is where you would use this form if a buyer called on your listing and said, I want to come look at it. Okay, you can show it to them. Yep, absolutely. And they say, I want to make an offer. Okay, do you want an agent to represent you? We exclusively represent the seller. We do not practice same agent dual agency. Do you want our agent to represent you? Heck no, we've bought and sold 10 homes. We know what we want to offer. We know what we're doing. We don't need an agent to represent us. You don't check any of these. You only check this one. Unrepresented buyer.
Do we get the commission?
Yeah.
We get 2 commissions?
You get the buy side and the list side. Yes, yes. Unrepresented buyer, you are the seller's sub-agent.
Mm.
This is where this is where people get confused, because they think, I can't sell my own listing. You can absolutely sell your own listing, and I recommend that you do as a seller sub-agent. That means the buyer has no representation. Your seller agreed to pay 6% commission, 3%, 3.5% to you, 2.5% to the buyer, the selling side of the transaction. When you fill out the offer to purchase, you're on this side and you're on this side. You've earned both sides of the compensation.
So how many brown envelopes get delivered because of somebody was a seller's sub-agent?
None. None. Dual agency, same agent, dual agency, a whole lot. None with seller sub-agency. Because I only represent one person. We are in a buyer beware state. I had the conversation.
So who's filling out the buyer documents? Like the offer to purchase?
You are.
That's why you get the big bucks.
So you use your knowledge when you're,
Yeah, but you're not representing them. If they say to you, well, what home inspector do you recommend in town? I'm sorry, I am representing the seller. I can give you a list of, here's 5. You call, and so you're not,
okay,
no representation whatsoever.
got it.
You can give them the information, but if they say, well, which one of these would you pick? They're all great. I've worked with all of them.
And when the DDRA comes in?
So so inspection, you don't review the inspection with the buyer. The inspection goes with the buyer. And if the buyer says, we found some things we would like for the seller, you're facilitating all of the paperwork. You're just not representing or
So
guiding.
if you see something glaringly wrong that they're asking for, you don't say anything, you just write it the way they want to write it. Unlike a DDRA.
Yeah, so in a DDRA, chances are you haven't even looked at the home inspection because it was directly between the buyer and the inspector. So you're not in that loop where you would get that inspection. So the buyer reviews the inspection and says, oh, well, the roof is leaking. We'd like for the seller to repair the roof. You write it up on the DDRA, how they ask you to do it.
What about getting the home inspection report to the seller?
If the buyer is willing to share it,
But you would have to ask the buyer, you'd have to say, I'd like to send this to the seller.
and you may or may not want to.
That's true.
Again, think about who your fiduciary is. Your fiduciary is that seller. And so why do we want to open up that can of worms? So now the seller and you know everything that's on that inspection.
And when that happens, and say the deal fell through,
Mhm.
but as the listing agent, you have the home inspection.
If the buyer shares it.
Yeah, if the buyer shares it.
Yes.
And the seller has it, so now everything in there is material fact.
That is correct.
And has to be put in the forms on the MLS when you relist it, or?
Yeah, so when it goes back active, anytime a change happens from the original RPD, then the seller is obligated to do an updated one. I would not make it live on MLS again, back active on MLS until the seller has updated the RPD.
So, and then in the RPD, they would have to put in all those things that were found wrong on the home inspection report.
Yes,
They would need to put in the RPD.
yes.
So you'd be crazy to let a deal fall through if you could help it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So double use of this form, if you're using it one way, in the most common way that we use it, where we're representing and working with a buyer, we only check the top.
Got it.
Yes. If we are being a sub-agent of the seller, buyer comes in, just like Pete, just like you said, I have to review the working with real estate agents with them, right? Yes, you do. At that point in time, then you decide which box you're gonna check. We're gonna buy the property, we don't need representation. You check this box only. we want to buy the property, but we want somebody to represent us. Great, let me get you in touch with an agent that can exclusively represent you on this property. And then that agent does this piece here. Make sense?
Mhm.
Any questions on that?
Mhm.
Okay,
Not till next week when the next situation.
Great, we're gonna stop them.
I've used more than my one question, haven't
okay. Sorry. I'm just glad that, you are learning the correct way to do it and the reasons why, the explanation behind it, as opposed to just do it this way because I said so. No, let's understand so that we can
Well, I didn't always check that box when I first started doing WWREAs. I did not check that last box.
Yeah.
And then I was told to check, so I
Yes.
did. And now I won't anymore. I'll
Yeah.
try not.
well, and again, now that you understand, it makes sense that you don't check that box, right? The bottom box. If I'm representing a buyer, why would I check that box? Because that box is saying, it's negating checking the top three boxes. Because the top three boxes says that I'm representing you in this capacity. And then if you check the last box, it says, no, never mind, I'm not representing you at all.
What was told to me was that these are all the scenarios that could happen. And so you've got to check that you went over all those scenarios.
Yes, and I understand that, and I'm aware of that.
But it's not right, so we're.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And, because, even with because I'm gonna go back to the way before the NAR settlement. Like, how many times did y'all get a buyer agency agreement signed before you showed a piece of property?
Hardly ever.
3
Right.
times.
You do it
Right.
when you
We
should
did
make an
3 times.
offer.
Yeah, exactly. You did it when you were making an offer, so you already knew what type of agency relationship that you were in. And so if you are and very rarely would you, but again, because that negates, if you have said, I'm in a buyer agency agreement with you, I'm in a dual agency relationship with you, and I'm in a dual designated, well, you can't now be in a sub-agent with them.
Got it.
Because that means you're not representing them at all. But again, most, and I can see, what I can't understand is in what capacity might any of those happen when they're two totally separate. I mean, I either represent you or I don't represent you.
I think it's interesting that you can get the full commission from both sides by representing nobody or one side.
We have to represent somebody.
Well, at dual agency, you end up not representing anybody.
Well, that is correct. If you are, if it is, if it's same agent, dual agency, that's correct. You are not representing anyone.
Anybody, you're passing paperwork.
Exactly. Yes, yes. You are the, you're the tennis judge is what you are, because you're watching it go from here to here to here. And yeah. Yes, fun stuff. Can you imagine like the states that didn't have buyer agency? Like what kind of mess they're in right now? Which is what happened because of the NAR settlement as a result of. Okay, all right, now that we have the correct one up here, and again, my apologies.
Is this
for
the
that.
like January 25?
This is the January 25, yes. Again, location, services, all of that is the same. Under number 2, again, it's just asking the buyer has or has not signed a document with another real estate is not working with a is or is not, and has or has not received sample copies of purchase contract and professional services disclosure form. This is where you were asking about that.
Mhm.
Again, term of agreement,
Quick question.
yeah,
Why wouldn't, if we've got to put Gladwell Properties and Keller Williams Central at the top line, why wouldn't a single agent, UNLLC?
Ada's not an LLC.
Why wouldn't Ada put Ada and Keller Williams?
Because she doesn't have a separate firm license with the Real
Okay.
Estate Commission. She operates under Keller Williams solely. You guys do as well, yet you're paid through another firm. And so, like, I might remember, oh, that Pete Gladwell, that's a name I will never forget. I don't know who he works for, but you see what I'm saying? So it could be, like, I know Pete Gladwell is the person I want to go after with the Real Estate Commission, but I forgot that he worked with Keller Williams. Because you guys do a great job of marketing yourselves and your team.
Mhm.
That's why it has to be both.
But we also sign at the bottom of that form.
That's correct. Yes.
So do we do that? Well, I guess we'll get to the
Yeah,
bottom
we'll
of the
get
form.
there. None of that's changed, but yes, we will get there.
Karen, is somebody that's planning on doing that sometime soon?
Mhm.
So that's pretty much the equivalent of like a DBA, like doing business as.
Yes.
And that's why they have to do that,
Yes.
just because.
Yes. So
Okay.
they have to be able to find you.
Sure.
So if I'm a consumer and I call the Real Estate Commission and I say, Pete Gladwell with Gladwell Properties, they should be able to find him at the Real Estate Commission. Or if I said Beth Gladwell at Keller Williams, same thing. They would be able to find either way.
Okay.
Because they're going to remember Pete Gladwell, but they might not remember Keller Williams. Again, okay, so this does look a little different than the other one. Non-refundable retainer, again, if that's part of your business. And then X% of the gross sales price. Again, we like for this number to be 3, depending on your business model, what you are willing to accept. A flat fee, if it is a flat fee, if it's, like your best friend and you are like, I'll just take $1,000 and we'll negotiate any compensation down. That would be a flat fee,
But normally we're the second box, right?
second box.
Okay,
Yes,
and
yes.
that is just for, the buyer's commission.
Correct. Yes, yes. And then other specific amount, this would be, there are some agents that within their business model, they charge a $395 transaction fee to the client. That's where that would show up, other specific amount, $395 transaction fee paid to Keller Williams.
So there's no place here you could put a adjustable rate. Like-
Right, it can't be a range. Has to be
Well,
a,
no, somebody asked us if you help us buy for purchase price, it's 2.5%. If you buy it for $20,000 under, it's 3. If you buy it for 20,000, if it ends up being $20,000 over, it's going to be 2.25.
so it is, so the conversation that I'm having with a buyer that's trying to negotiate compensation on the front end is that this is my fee.
This is a seller.
So different on the seller side. There is a tiered on the seller side, and we can talk about that when we talk about seller forms this time next week. Yes,
We said no.
well. Yes, so this is just the buy side. what do you anticipate? And then, so any other specific amount is anything additional that's within your business model that, that you may ask the buyer to pay. A lot of this is, it's standard, has not changed. Fee earned, seller or listing, so firm may seek compensation from the seller or the listing firm to pay some or all of the fee due. However, buyer understands that neither seller nor listing firm has a duty to pay the firm's fee. Mutual termination is required. They can't just go and hire somebody. So that just states that the buyer will remain liable to pay for any earned fee in this section that becomes due and payable unless firm and buyer both agree to terminate this agreement. Protection period, this is the same. And then, so they've changed the bold to the buyer. So buyer understands that the amount, format, or rate of real estate compensation is not fixed by law, but is set by each broker or firm individually and is fully negotiable. Firm may not receive compensation for the services from any source that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to herein with the buyer. If the compensation, let's say that they end up buying a new construction and D.R. Horton is giving you a $2,000 bonus, we use Form 770 that discloses not only are we receiving our 3% commission, we're also getting an additional bonus of $2,000. So just when all else fails, how do I handle that? There's a form for that. All right. Dual agency. Okay, so I'm gonna explain this, and certainly after I do, it's gonna make sense.
What number is this?
This is number 6, yeah, 6B. Okay, so we always want to check this one. Firm may act as a dual agent in a transaction involving the buyer. Because we might be showing a Keller Williams listing, right? So that's why it's dual agent. And I'm giving you, I mean, there's always instances where you would have them sign the top. Because it really doesn't matter. Let's say they're buying a D.R. Horton house. We know they're buying a D.R. Horton house. We're writing this agreement up, knowing they're buying a D.R. Horton house. Sure, by all means, you can sign the top one. Just in general practice, if I'm showing a buyer and we don't yet know what they're gonna buy, this is where we always want to err on the side of caution. Okay, so if firm may act, which we said yes, they can, as a dual agent, then initial only one of below. So the buyer does authorize the same agent to represent both the buyer and the seller in dual agency. There are a few, in a few cases where agents are practice dual agency, single agent, dual agency. Most of our agents do not. So in a rare case, will this one be initial? What I see is a lot of people initial here. Buyer does not authorize the same agent to represent both the buyer and seller in dual agency. Okay, that means no single agent, dual agency. I get it. The reason that they want to sign initial here is because it says buyer does not authorize the same agent to represent both buyer and seller in a dual agency. So everything's the same right here, and directs the firm to practice designated dual agency. So bottom lines on both.
See how many times I've read that third section. I know it's the right one to sign, but I still don't know what it means. But I don't care. I
Well,
know it's the right one. to sign.
it's the right one to sign. And because I see, like I said, I see a lot here, which I get it, yes. But what happens if we go to the next step? And so the next step, again, because we own market share and the number of agents that we have in our firm, there's a high likelihood that we're gonna get into a dual designated situation.
I think it's just that very last part. It is not allowed in the North Carolina law, and then the next sentence. The next. Right.
Okay, yeah, don't worry about that.
That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
don't worry
just,
about
just,
that.
yeah, don't worry about that because there are situations where dual designated agency is not allowed under North Carolina law. But
Okay.
it comes into play if you are selling your own property or property that you have an interest in, that sort of thing. So don't worry about that. Yeah, just act like that's not even, the rest of that's not even there.
That's what I do.
But just make sure, because again, people read this one and they're like, oh, yep, nope, I don't practice single agent dual agency. And they stop there and they have them initial there. But then what happens if I have a buyer or I have a listing and I have a dual designated agreement with my seller and you bring me a buyer and you don't have a dual designated agreement with your buyer, then now you got to go get another form signed. Again, guiding on worst case scenario. Can always be, because that's the most likely thing that's going to happen, can always be adjusted. Everything can be adjusted. It can be, we can fix it, even if you initial here. And there are several files that I've had to return because I'm looking at the other agent compliance, they've got dual designated. Well, that means that yours has to mirror theirs, so you got to go back and get your buyer or seller to authorize dual designated. And then it talks about material facts, whether dual agency is authorized for must disclose any material facts. And then just a reminder on surveillance, photographs, video. Some properties may have video, audio, surveillance. Don't stand in front of the ring and talk about the property. There are, audio is not allowed within the property, yet the ring, once you step outside of the property. Other professional advice, again, this is where we stay in our lane. We can guide you and we can guide you as far as what we do, real estate professional. I can't answer your questions on, is that termite damage underneath the house? We have to send them to a professional. So that's what this covers. Inspection costs. This is just another place. It says it in the offer to purchase as well. But this is where we're telling the buyer, if you're going to have these inspections, you are going to pay for the inspections. You can't have a home inspection and then the home inspector recommend that you get an HVAC inspection, and then you expect the seller to pay for the HVAC inspection. No, buyer is responsible, unless otherwise agreed upon, of course. Buyer is responsible for all inspection cost and professional services related to purchasing the property. And whether you close on it or not, you still got to pay them. All the rest of this,
Do you
Legal.
advise putting NA on blank lines?
yeah, I mean, am I gonna kick your file back because you didn't put an NA in a blank? No, I'm not going to. Yet from a protection.
Yeah.
Then yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it's good practice. All right, so here we go, Pete. Gladwell Properties at Keller Williams, however y'all want to say that. C 21388 / whatever your firm.
Welcome.
Oh, my Lord. I have no idea what my phone number is.
More phones?
Well, the rest of it, like phone number, I just put my phone number on here. And then you sign, of course, you sign it, and then your license number, depends on how y'all sign it, if y'all put one, if you put two, whatever.
Firm's not gonna fit, that line's not gonna hold it.
Well, you just reduce the font
It'll be very
down a little bit, yeah. Yes. Any other questions?
I wish I hadn't come to class.
Well, just because you come to class doesn't negate the fact that you have to do it correct, Beth.
Ignorance is bliss.
No, it's not whenever I'm doing your compliance.
Just kidding.
Okay, I'm not gonna go through non-exclusive. It essentially is the same as exclusive. It's just non-exclusive. I am going to go through this one. Because this is a required document in your buyer consultation file, this is affiliated business arrangement disclosure. The reason that this is a RESPA required form because Keller Williams Central has ownership in Heritage Title. And we have to disclose anytime we have ownership in Heritage Title. So think about if you've ever sold any of the box builders contracts. How many different disclosures are in there? Oh, well, we have an interest in the mortgage company. We have an interest in this. We want you to use our attorney because, you know, all of those affiliated business arrangements. That's exactly what this is. The same thing. It's a RESPA required form. It does not require your buyer to use Heritage Title. It's just a form that says, should you use Heritage Title, we need to disclose to you that we have an interest in the property and we will receive monies from you using this. So this is the one that is required that your buyer sign. Doesn't have to be, there is a place on there for the address. It doesn't have to be address specific. You know, when you're doing your buyer consultation, you're getting all these forms signed, just their name and their signature is the only thing that is required on this.
So that's not Keller Williams Central.
Well, so Keller Williams Central is a DBA of Keller Williams Realty, also a DBA of Burlington Market Center LLC. There's about 5 of them. Yeah, every time they, never mind, I'm not gonna go. Now, different from. Different from this form. This is not a required form. In your under contract file, there is a conditional for Heritage Title election form. We only use this form if they elect to use Heritage Title. So there's 2 different forms. There's the disclosure and then there's the selection or election form. This is the form. So when Carla comes and talks to us about Heritage Title, this is the form that you send directly to them. Once, and now we have to have property property specific. Because now they're pulling a title policy for specific, you know, they're getting to work with so this goes to the closing attorney with your contract package if the buyer elects to use Heritage Title.
What if the attorney uses it and doesn't tell us?
Good question.
Why couldn't we put a check, I would like to use it on the other form, not have this one?
Because the other is a disclosure. Because they need to sign it whether they do or whether they do not.
How about a disclosure and election form?
Well, okay, but on the disclosure form, I may not know what property they're buying.
Well, I'm not gonna get them to sign a heritage title form unless they put in an offer.
Well, you might,
Never.
when you're doing your buyer agency agreement that you're required to have before you cross the threshold.
Never. Say it. I'm not trying to be,
No, I mean, I
I'm
get
just talking
it.
about real.
I hear what you're saying. Yet, let's say,
I'll say this, you'll get twice as many people using heritage title if you have it in one form too.
and I don't disagree with
And
that.
then we'll have more money.
Restful won't let us do that. We have to disclose and you have to have the option. And and so the other thing with the property is, so, okay, you're sitting down and you're doing buyer agency agreement, WWREA, offer to purchase, everything all at the same time. What if that offer is not accepted? The offer goes away, but the agency agreement stays the same. So now they would have to sign another one of these forms. If you'll keep walking up there'll be somebody at the desk to help you. They, because now my property has changed.
Say,
I get it. I understand. There's Pete's Way and
I like pizza.
Makes sense.
Those are my 2 cents.
well, and so the other thing too is that, you know, when we think about it, it might be too much of a conversation to have at one time. So if I'm sitting down and I'm explaining buyer agency and how I'm going to represent you, and then I'm also having a conversation with them about, okay, how
price
much,
and due diligence.
right, exactly. So,
EM and when they're
right,
gonna do it.
yeah, so there's a whole lot going on.
Whether the
and-
mother likes it or not.
And yeah, and now I'm like, and oh, by the way, here's this other form. I need for you to decide right now whether you want to use Heritage Title. And I'm going, Pete, my offer hasn't even been accepted yet. I don't know if I want to use Heritage Title or not. Disclosure is kind of like the WWREA.
Not a contract, it's information.
Yes. I'm required to disclose it to you. Now, just like the WWREA, I have seen many that say buyer refused to sign. And, you know, the point is, we told them. And we don't, get claims filed against our E&O. So we try to keep costs down there and we don't get brown envelopes, although they don't send brown envelopes anymore. I do think that they should send brown emails, just so it stands out and you know that it's different, because I have, accidentally deleted one. Yeah, thank goodness for archive. Any questions on any of this? Okay, and Pete, I will tell you that we are working on a little bit of rewording, particularly on the disclosure one. And so we can sit down, I think I could sit down and put both of them together and see, is there a way that we can put both of them together without it being overwhelming to the buyer? Yet still serve the purpose for what we need it to. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes,
Informative.
absolutely. Now, and see, so next week is, listing agreement and all of the required listing forms and why those forms are required documents to have in your, in command. And then the following week, so this repeats every month. The first week is buyer forms, second week is listing forms. Third week is offer to purchase. And then fourth week is miscellaneous forms, like all of those forms that we may not use every time. But when we do need them, we know which form to use and how to complete it. Termination forms, agreement to amend, agency agreement and renewal forms, all of those, is fourth week.
Can I ask one quick question to you? If you get an offer that has a deadline on it, is it true that if you change, if you're okay with all of it and you're gonna meet the deadline, but you wanna change the close date, if you ask for that, then that terminates that deadline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well, so because the additional provisions addendum states very clearly that all terms must be accepted by 5 p.m., whatever the date is, 5 p.m. time is of the essence. So if you change the close date, you have now countered.
Yeah.
So all of the terms have not been, I'm not a big fan
I'm not.
of, expiration of offer
Yeah.
for that reason, right?
I told one agent, we were presented with that, and I told him, I said, well, if we change anything at the gates, and he said, oh, well, we're a little looser with it around these areas. It was an out-of-town agent.
And I get it, and that's the problem, is that people aren't using it. They're like, oh, well, no, I just sent it. Like, well, okay, then remove it from,
Yeah.
if you didn't mean it,
Yeah.
if you didn't mean it, then don't send it.
Yeah, we say, does this mean we can't counter?
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it means. And see, they don't understand that.
Yeah, well, he said they understood it, but it was a little more loosely used in his
Yeah.
words.
No, it's,
Anyway, okay, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Debbie.
yes,
All right,
thank
bye,
you for
y'all.
being here.
Thank y'all, by the way.
Ada, nice to meet you again.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Oh, Daniel's working with,
Sunday,
yes,
thank you.
Sandeep, that you sent, the lead you sent yesterday.
Oh, good.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yes.
I talked him out of the 175 place. We're gonna go look at a 260 place.
Go for it.
All righty.
So, that pays out 3% too.
Well, you're kidding. Way to go.
Trying, fingers crossed.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you. We're gonna get you some mailbox money.
Not today. Just to give you a heads up to, are you coming to my tech class tomorrow? Okay, so you're good. So it's at 11. I will be coming in hot.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be meeting with my clients in the morning and then flying across town. Cause we're gonna be looking at some places in